Hi everyone, you are listening to the TÉKA podcast. I am Georgina Kiskozma, social scientist and bookworm. In the TÉKA podcast episodes, we talk about social issues, each time on new topics. One thing is for sure, we preserve ideas instead of borrowing them. Join us. Welcome everyone. You are listening to the new TÉKA podcast episode of the Youth Research Institute. My name is Georgina Kiskozma. In today's episode, we are going to talk about books. I am delighted to have Audrey Unverferth, MCC Visiting Fellow and writer of Chicago Thinker. Audrey, I'm very grateful to you for accepting my invitation. You participated in the conference When the Unthinkable Happens, which took place in May 2024 at the Tallinn International Aldous Huxley Center. Aldous Huxley is best known for his influential work Brave New World. This book is a gripping and thought-provoking novel that envisions a dystopian future in which technological advancement and government control have replaced individuality, freedom, and human relationships. Published in 1932, the book remains a literary classic and a powerful warning about the dangers of a society shaped by scientific progress and the erosion of personal autonomy. The influence of the Brave New World on literature and popular culture and its continuing relevance in the 21st century is a topic of great interest. My first question is, who was Aldous Huxley, after whom the center is named? What is worth knowing about his work?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here today. I'm really excited to chat with you. Aldous Huxley is such a fascinating character. He was infinitely curious about topics and the world. He loved to travel. He was a prolific writer. He produced 20 books of essays, 4 poetry collections, 11 novels, and more. He came from a family which had a really interesting background in science and religion, both of which were to greatly inform and shape his work. And by the end of his life, Huxley was a pacifist and a mystic. He was seeking the universal of religious experience, and he wrote about this at great lengths. Interestingly, he became almost blind in his youth, and so he learned Braille, and he read everything, either in Braille or with a really large magnifying glass. So by the time he got to the University of Oxford, where he studied during World War I, he was incredibly well-read. He had so many questions about the world, and his literary career started shortly afterwards. Today, I'm excited to focus on his dystopian novel, Brave New World, because it is frighteningly like the world we live in today. Huxley was brilliant in foreshadowing the rise of globalist technocracy, and we have a lot to learn from him and his work.
It would be the next question, because Huxley's vision of a future dominated by technological progress and control was groundbreaking and seems strangely prophetic today, over 90 years later. So what relevance does the novel have in today's world?
It's so relevant. I would argue that we are living in Huxley's Brave New World, or what the writer and Orthodox Christian Paul Keynesnorth calls the machine. This was the focus of the conference that I attended in Tallinn, Estonia. We discussed the rise of the Brave New World and what that means for the concerned humanist. So to try to summarize, I would argue that we are experiencing a soft totalitarianism today, that immense control is being exerted over humanity. We are being told what to think and how to live, but the catch is that we are being controlled by an elite that claims to have our best interests in mind. And this is something that Huxley anticipated. Huxley wrote about a dystopian London in which everyone is assigned their place in society. They are always comfortable. They are consumers. They don't have to worry. If they ever get worried, they can take drugs called soma, which are basically happy pills. The people are constantly controlled in Huxley's Brave New World, and in being controlled, they're supposed to be happy. And I would say that a similar philosophy is being deployed today by some of our leaders. And more specifically, to compare the novel to today, the novel describes the destruction of the family. Characters do not use the words mother or father. I fear we're starting to see something similar today as we watch traditional gender norms be deconstructed by the woke left. The book also describes the loss of faith. The people believe in and worship consumerism instead of God. There is a globalist world state instead of a nation. Culture has been sacrificed for globalism, and there is this perverse distraction. Again, there's this consumerism, drugs. Children engage in erotic play in the novel, which is disgusting. The characters have sex orgies, and the people are really addicted to technology the same way that we today are addicted to our cell phones. And the result of all of this is anti-humanism, that we see characters in the book who are technically human, but they've given up their freedom to such a degree that they're more like robots. And so they're easily controlled. Society is stable, but something really profound has been lost in the process.
Let us now turn to the conference you attended. People are talking more and more about artificial intelligence. At the beginning, there was a kind of technological optimism in the public conversations, but now we are living in a time of technological pessimism. Was the atmosphere of the conference characterized more by technological optimism or technological pessimism?
I would say the atmosphere was pragmatic. It was technological pragmatism, which meant technological pessimism, but not unfettered. I think the attendees of the conference all agreed that artificial intelligence now exists in the world. It is a tool that has been invented by man. It can't be taken back. It exists in the world, and moving forward, we have to figure out how to respond, whether or not to use this tool, and if we are to use it, how to use it. So the focus was very much on next steps and what can be done, while speakers were obviously concerned about the implications.
In general, I'm rather pessimistic about technology, but to be honest, I wouldn't want to leave a household without a hairdryer. So I've revealed that I'm not really pessimistic. I just think it's worth slowly getting used to the new technologies without giving up our old activities. For example, I think it's very good that almost everyone can do podcast now, but I think it's important to continue to preserve the role of the book in human culture. So how do you think we should respond? What should we use new technologies like artificial intelligence for?
Well, I'd like to emphasize again that artificial intelligence is a tool and it can be used for good. For example, AI can be used in self-driving labs, perhaps, to advance scientific research and to engage in pharmaceutical discovery. There are so many diseases and there's so much we don't know about the human body and human health, and artificial intelligence may be able to play a role to enable us to live longer and be much healthier, and that's incredibly exciting. Some experts argue that algorithms can help us make decisions and can even serve as infinitely patient tutors in education or therapists. And I find that frightening, honestly. I don't want the machine to attempt to replace human interaction. I think it's crucial to remember that artificial intelligence is ultimately code. It's something created by humans, and parents should be teaching their kids, not screens. So we need to respond by asking what progress means and by being really thoughtful about how we allow artificial intelligence to contribute to, but not control, our lives. And Paul Kingsnorth spoke about this really powerfully at the conference. He reminded the audience that we have a choice. We can serve the machine, we can serve artificial intelligence, or we can object, we can set boundaries, we can refuse to engage in certain technology, and we can live grounded in the earth. And I think it would serve us well to listen to him.
Speaking of books, why is it important to read, and why will books continue to play an important role in the future? What does Huxley have to say on the subject? And of course, I'm very curious about your opinion on the topic.
Well, Huxley has this great line toward the beginning of Brave New World where one of the characters says, "You can't consume much if you sit still and read books." The characters recognize a problem, which is that the world state relies on constant consumerism to survive, such that the world state creates sporting games, which intentionally use as many sports supplies as possible to increase profits. There's this constant push in Brave New World for the regime to sell as much as possible to the people. And the catch is that if you're sitting still and reading a book, you're not at the mall buying goods, you're not consuming state-sanctioned propaganda, perhaps. You're reading one author's voice, which may have been influenced by the state, but may not have been. So books are seen as a vessel for defiance, and therefore the savage who comes from outside society reads Shakespeare, but the people living in the world state in Huxley's dystopian London don't really read. And I think books play a crucial role in the future as we become more and more tech obsessed. It becomes more important that we step away from our phones and our laptops to read the great works of the past and of our contemporaries thoughtfully, not just seeking out clickbait, but actually sitting down with a good book to learn, I think is really crucial.
I'm optimistic about the future of books because I believe that they are the most important communication invention of mankind. Reading books is the most natural and oldest way in which the basic values of society are passed on from generation to generation. Thus, books can also be interpreted as the most important binding agent of society, as the basic of communication and cooperation between generations and within generations, which also shapes thought and language. We often think of reading as an individual activity, while storytelling has always been an important community-building force throughout history. In my opinion, reading books is more of a communal experience that can create a common language and a common thought structure, among other things. In the age of digital culture, finding that common language is the biggest challenge. We talk a lot about the challenges of intergenerational communication. Books also have the potential to connect generations by providing common topics and a common ground of different generations. It is also the most important basis for social interactions. Reading also helps us to maintain our mental health. So my last question would be that what is your favorite book?
Oh, that's such a tough question. And I so agree with you that books are crucial. They provide continuity among generations. They enable us to learn from the past, and they defend tradition and represent the best that's been thought in human history. In terms of favorite book, my answer is always different when asked, but I've really been enjoying Leo Tolstoy's work lately, and I think the descriptions of war and peace are just beautiful. So I love that book.
I love that book as well. So Audrey, thank you so much for accepting my invitation and sharing your stimulating and valuable thoughts with us. And to everyone who has listened to our conversation, have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the latest episode of the TÉKA podcast. You can find more content on the Youth Research Institute's website and Facebook page.